Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. If reports are to be believed, Josh Taylor will not fight Jack Catterall again, as it is supposedly contracted, but will instead take on Teofimo Lopez later this year. Now, let me be right honest and transparent from the off here. The result, with Taylor defeating Catterall on a split decision, is one of the worst decisions I have ever seen, and I've been watching boxing for over 40 years. Okay, to me personally, either it was corruption or it was rank incompetence. Either way, it should have been overturned. The decision should have been overturned, although that would have been difficult to do because there were 4 belts on the line. Jack Catterall should be the undisputed light welterweight champion of the world, and instead he's got nothing other than a defeat on his record, which wasn't a defeat. Again, one of the worst decisions I have ever seen. An absolute barefaced, cast iron, stone cold disgrace. So, for me personally, and this is just my opinion, you may hold a different opinion. For me personally, for Josh Taylor, who is an extremely talented fighter who achieved a tremendous amount in collecting all 4 of those belts, for him to regain the luster that he held before the Catterall fight, and he hasn't fought since, he must give Catterall a rematch. He must right that wrong. And he himself has said he thinks he won a close fight. He's accused Catterall of moaning or whining or being a sore loser. First of all, Catterall wasn't a loser other than in the eyes of 2 of the judges. And Taylor should have shown a little bit more class and maybe put a lid on it. I don't believe that if he watches that fight back, I don't know whether he has watched it back, but I don't believe if he does and he watches it with an objective eye, in his heart of hearts, he believes that he's won that fight. He didn't win that fight. Him and Ben Davison, who was his trainer at the time, was saying, "Oh, it was a close one," and I thought he just edged it. No, you didn't. You didn't. You lost it. I had it. I can't remember offhand, 9-3 or 8-4. If you really, really, really struggled and were biased and gave Taylor everything that you possibly could, maybe you could make it 7-5 to Catterall. But I'd have said that scorecard was way too close. You know, that would have been, 115, 113. That's too close. 9-3, 8-4, bit borderline, 8-4. I mean, I think 9-3 was a fair assessment of the fight. So Taylor now is faced with an option. He can either go and fight Teofimo Lopez, who is damaged goods himself because he didn't look good in his last fight against Sandor Martin, although Martin is a very difficult fighter to look good against and is himself a very accomplished world-level fighter, and was actually on the floor against Martin, just like Taylor was on the floor against Catterall. He can do that. Or, well, let's say he does that and he beats Lopez. Let's say he knocks Lopez flat in 3 rounds. I don't think it will happen, but let's say that happens. He will say, "I'm back. See, I told you that Catterall thing was an aberration. I told you I was, having problems in training, or, my mind wasn't on the job. I took him too lightly." Whatever the excuse is, it doesn't matter if Taylor never loses another fight in his whole career. It doesn't matter if he cuts a swathe, a sort of white-hot swathe through all the light welterweights. The current generation and the next. And if he fights until he's 40 without losing a fight, people will always say, "You lost to Catterall." And do you know why they'll say that? Because you did lose to Catterall. Not in the record books, but that doesn't matter. No one seriously believes that Roy Jones Jr. wasn't the gold medalist at the 1988 Olympics. Obviously he was, but he got robbed. No one believes that Robin Reed didn't beat Sven Otka, but he did. He hardly lost a round, but somehow, that has to be corruption. I can't believe anyone's that incompetent. But this ain't that far off. This is not that. This is one of the worst, certainly one of the worst professional decisions I've ever seen in my life. So I think that Taylor will be affecting his legacy extremely negatively if he doesn't at some point fight Catterall again. And I don't want to hear any nonsense about, well, if Catterall picks up one of the vacant belts, they can have a unification. No. Right. Catterall is the uncrowned champ and should be deservedly thought of in those terms. Taylor, the ball is in your court, not in Catterall's. You know, Catterall hasn't got a bad mark against him. He's got a loss, technically a loss in the record books, but he hasn't got a black mark against his name. You have. And you've got to step up to the plate and face this guy again, or accept that your legacy, no matter what you achieve from here on in, will be affected negatively by not facing him again. So I just wanted to say that, okay? And by the way, Taylor versus Lopez ain't a bad fight. It's not a bad fight at all. It's a nice little warm-up for a Catterall rematch, if that's the way he's going. But until you beat Catterall, forget about it. Nothing else is relevant as far as I'm concerned. Those are my views. Leave yours below. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the like button. We'll speak again soon. And as always, thanks for your time. Bye for now.